explain a little bit of why we chose this structure for our session. It has been very interesting to hear some of the former sessions on both public law and private law regarding impact. And as an environmental lawyer, I have to say I have found very interesting to learn a lot about the transactional side of the work for impact lawyers. And now I think we will have a sort of a combination of what do lawyers in corporations work regarding these aspects, and how those commitments are also reported in the applicable frameworks for financial disclosures. So let me first introduce you to our speakers. They all have impressive resumes, so I just will try to short it a little bit because it's hard to go onto everything. Esther Rodriguez is the legal director of Natura in Mexico. In 2010, she joined Avon as a trainee, gaining knowledge and experience as a lawyer in various roles and positions, handling litigation and managing judicial and administrative proceedings in the areas of social security, tax, corporate and consumer law in Mexico and Central America. Her professionalism and strong commitment led her to become legal director at Natura, where she took responsibility for legal strategy and advice for its different brands and channels, ensuring risk mitigation in high-impact commercial projects. Her work also includes government relations and representation in chambers and associations where she promotes initiatives that strengthen the cosmetics and direct sales industries. She holds a law degree with a specialization in tax litigation and has a strategic vision focused on business sustainability and value creation for the organization. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Then Pablo Ruiz is the legal VP for Tequila and Mezcal at Diageo. That should be a very cool title for any lawyer. And he's the leading, well, you know, the company is a leading global premium spirits company. It has a lot of well-known brands. I won't do commercials, but Pablo will be able to speak more about that. Prior to this role, Pablo was legal associate at the law firm Rich Mueller and Nicolau, and legal director for Grupo Modelo and New Mexico. He is current member of the board of Enseña por México, a non-profit organization committed to reducing education inequality in Mexico. Pablo holds a law degree from the Ibero, and this is your alma mater, proudly, and an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. Thank you, Pablo. And last, but of course not least, Alan Gomez. He's a seasoned leader and expert with over 20 years of experience across Latin America. He has been instrumental in designing and implementing strategies for integrating sustainability, climate, and nature-related risks within the financial sector, utilizing many global standards. I will go on to the game of acronyms. TNFD, TCFD, and IFRS. Beyond his current role at TNFD, his career includes key roles at GFANZ, Citibanamex, the Mexican Banks Association, and Mario Molina Center for Energy and Environment, Nobel Prize, where he has driven capital mobilization strategies, flagship programs, and capacity building for the transition. He is renowned for engaging C-suite executives in his leadership in promoting transparency and the climate nature action. His vision and expertise make him a key figure in advancing sustainable finance across the region. Thank you, Alan. Well, and just a little bit about myself. I am, as I was telling you, an environmental lawyer. I came here to this summit in different capacities, but mainly in two of them. I am part of the sustainability board of AIJA. You heard about AIJA earlier today. Thank you, Danny, for the introduction. And also as a president of the Mexican Association of Environmental Impact, an association devoted to promote best practices across industries, of course, and environmental consultants and public officers working in this regard. So that's me. I also have an LLM in environmental law and also a degree in business in energy management. So thank you again for being here. As I was telling you, we will try to go from the general aspects of the sustainability commitments within the companies, the corporations, that ultimately have obligations to report these commitments and ways to measure these actions in a more objective way. So we will first start, of course, with Esther and Pablo in this conversation, how they have been working on let's say, biodiversity and sustainability obligations within their companies. And then we will move on to something more specific, which is the characteristics of their report obligations that these and other companies have in terms of the standards that I just mentioned. So to start with you, Esther.
Okay.
Well, we all know that Natura is very well recognized for engaging with local communities, particularly also in Brazil with indigenous communities. So please, could you tell us about how do you ensure that these sustainability commitments influence decision-making across different areas of the company?
Thank you, Carlos. First, I'd like to give some information about Natura. This year, Natura celebrate. Can you hear me? Yeah? Yeah? Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. First, I'd like to give a general information about Natura. This year, Natura celebrate 20 years in Mexico, marking for 2 decades of significant results in the country. In the direct sale, Natura and Avon are leaders in the direct selling. And about the cosmetic industry, ranked among Mexico's top 10, with a product portfolio over 4,000 products traded in Mexico. About the infrastructure, Avon and Natura have one factory and one distribution center in Celaya, Guanajuato. This site is the Natura first plant operating with clean energy, reducing carbon neutral emission by 60% in 2025. The annual production capacity over 520 billion units. Manufacturing fragrance, creams, lotion, lipsticks, body lotions, tubes, and mascaras. Manufacturing with not chlorinated water. This site is certified by FDA and Health Canada, exporting to North America and Latin America, and reuse over 200,000 boxes monthly. About the retail expansion, the first store opened in June 2021. Currently, we have 11 stores and 4 kiosks in Mexico City, Estado de Mexico, Querétaro, Puebla, and Monterrey. Our first franchise was inaugurated on September in Morelia. About your question, Carlos, we are facing climate disruption, mass extinctions, epidemics, and political extremism. There is a growing sense that all natural and social systems that sustain our lives and well-being are collapsing and they accelerate peace. Exactly 10 years launching our sustainable visions, we now embrace a new dream, rooted in a new mindset, regeneration, looking ahead to 2015, with measurable goals for 2030. Natura is committed to transforming itself in a fully regeneration company by 2050, pioneering in a global vision to promote the collective prosperity of business, humanity, and nature. Regeneration is closely to our philosophy of well-being well. Regeneration is a concept that goes beyond sustaining, preserving, or returning to the past state. It's an intrinsic ability of the natural state, when its relationships are healthy, to continue renew itself and evolve toward increased level of viability and abundance. We measure regeneration with our company, assign monetary value to non-financial impacts, social, human, and environmental, combining total outcomes, financial profit, with the regenerative value created, aiming for integral profit, where the company generates more value than it extracts. The measure tool we use at Natura to assess regeneration is the IPNL. At Natura, we use the IPNL as a strategy management tool to assess not only financial performance, but also impact on natural, social, and human capital. Today, Natura returned 2.7 Brazilian reais in social value for every real to revenue. By 2030, our ambition is reach 4 reals for positive social and environmental impact per real of profit, driven by the fully transparency on our products and service. At Natura, sustainable is not an aspirational concept. It's a legal strategy and operational pillar that defines how we do business. Our approach to biodiversity and ecosystem protection is embedded into governance and compliance structures, ensuring the goals are not only inspirational statements, but binding commitments to guide decision-making across the organization. From a legal perspective, Natura has developed an integrated governance model to align sustainability and regeneration principles with corporate obligations, policy, and contracts.
Thank you, Esther. We have, of course, all hear about the policies that Natura have implemented years ago. For example, they were the first, or one of the first companies at least, to stop testing in animals. Which was something meaningful, and also to, for example, change some of the covers of the products to make them more sustainable or more recyclable, for example. And of course, very well known for their work with communities, again, especially in Brazil. How these partnerships with the communities help the company to, let's say, achieve their biodiversity protection goals, and how they ensure that this commitment is secure in the future, and let's say in your plans for the years ahead.
Yeah. Our regenerative vision naturally includes our partners and the suppliers. This is an important thing in our contracts, policy, and select the vendors. All natural origin inputs or products must come from regenerative production. Supply chain must be monitored using regeneration indicators and certified with special attention to human rights for the indigenous public.
Thank you. And just also a short notice, Esther might have to drop from the session. Thank you very much in advance, Esther. Of course, you can stay as much as you like. Now I will move on to Pablo. It's very interesting to have your vision also, Pablo. It's another, let's say, an industry, of course, very different from the cosmetics and let's say retail industry in this regard, but also another, let's say, very regulated industry and consumption industry as well. So just to start, how Diageo integrate biodiversity in its operations and supply chain?
Sure, does it work? Yeah. Thanks, Carlos. First, I would like to start by saying that at Diageo, biodiversity and sustainability is not just a separate pillar that we just overlook. It's really embedded in our strategy. It's part of our long-term growth focus on one side. And for those of us that are lucky enough to go to the fields and talk with the agricultures and really go and see the manufacturing sites, it's our business. Like, so there's no business without sustainability pillars. We have a global program called Society 2030, Spirit of Progress, in which what we do is that we follow certain initiatives that we make sure that they drive measurable impact while at the same time reduce our footprint and help us achieve our economic performance and obligations. So we like to think that it's all 360 embedded in our strategy, right? And just taking advantage that we have many lawyers in the room. For us, also sustainability and all the biodiversity, of course, has to do with everything we do with the environment, but it is intrinsically linked to human rights and doing things the right way. So for us, that's a non-negotiable. So what we do is that we use technology advances, we use research to really improve operational efficiency and reduce our environmental footprint, mainly water and carbon. Some of these projects include the use of biomass boilers, solar panels, water usage and water reduce and water stewardship projects, and also regenerative agriculture initiatives that I'm going to talk about right now. And these projects really generate environmental impact and drive profitability, while at the same time, again, they reduce our environment footprint. So it's they really we like to say that they really make a direct impact in what we do. And just as a matter of examples, I'd like to talk about two. One of them is the Regen Ag that we call it, so it's regenerative agriculture. And what we do is we use studies of geomatic that tell us how the soil performs, how to take a better care of our lands and our soils in the ones that we plant our agaves, so that we really understand how our agaves will grow better, but how do we have a less impact to the environment, how to better take advantage of the water that falls from the rain. So in our agricultural activities, we don't use additional water other than the one that comes from the rain. And then we select the specific pieces of land and we geographic areas so that we understand how the water falls and how the agave will benefit better from the water and the soil. On that also, we use drones that fly over our lands, and that way also the drones tell us how our agaves are performing, so that we use fertilizers in those agaves that are growing the best, that have more sugars, so that we just don't spread the chemicals everywhere, and so that we select and we don't grow agaves that are not worthful for our products. And on the other, and additionally, we found that agaves also help to keep and maintain the carbon dioxide in soil. So that way we avoid the emission. So we have like very specific ways of plantation, and it's really like an art design that the agriculturists do. Right, and the beauty of it is that we just don't keep those practices to ourselves, but we share them with them, and the agricultures that are surrounding the Jalisco region can use those same practices in the rest of their agricultural activities. So that for us is like music to our ears when we hear how they've done it in their own businesses. And another project that is very close to our heart is the water reduce and reuse cycles that we have. So we have water treatment plants that help us treat the water and recycle and use it again in our operation. So that for us is linked to so water is our most important resource, our raw material. So we truly take care of it. We operate in communities that have water stress. So for us it's super important to have this kind of technologies. And one thing that is super important and that we've learned is this kind of projects need to be multifunctional or cross-functional projects within a company, right? So you need the legal team, the corporate relations team, understanding the legal framework, what can we do, doing the stakeholder engagement, but you need the operations team to link everything to your true operations. You need the engineering team to help you establish what kind of capabilities and specifications the providers need to have. You have the procurement team helping ensure that you have the best vendors in place. Finance team to make sure that you have true KPIs that make it measurable. So that's how we, and we believe that this does not only has a direct impact in the environment, in our operations, in the community, but also reputation to our brands, gives us the social license to operate, even increases your employee brand and everyone wants to come and join the company. So, and that's why we have lovable brands such as Don Julio. I needed to make the commercial, but...
Thank you, Pablo. It is very inspiring to hear, when a company does these strategies, especially I would call them nature-based solutions for their operations. And someone said yesterday that it is interesting to hear our speakers from this week, but sometimes you feel a little demotivated or sad about the challenges that we have to face. But these actions, I think that they are inspiring and they can be multiplied, of course, across some other industries. Since we are in a lawyer's forum, let's say, can we ask you how legal teams can efficiently and effectively work together with the operational teams that are on field, of course, working with these projects to ensure that these objectives are fully realized in practice?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the biggest challenges is to transform or convert those public commitments into real life executable projects. And that's where we as lawyers come in to make sure, first, that we have a good negotiation with vendors, with the government. So what we do is we have contracts in place that help us include either green or environmental clauses, measurable KPIs, so everyone knows exactly what the responsibility is. And also another challenge is how to balance the economic pressure and the long-term benefit, right? Especially in those initiatives or projects that have very high, costly upfront commitments or investments. So one way lawyers help a lot is ensuring that we have a constant communication with the government, for instance, so that we find good incentives to bring those projects to life. Again, the contracts, like setting the contracts in place. We have the benefit of understanding and knowing the legal framework, so we know what we can do and what we cannot do. We can also go back to regulators and tell them what works and what doesn't work, because that's also important, that feedback back. So we need to assess risks, advise on contracts, prevent litigations also, or any administrative problem, and support on ensuring that the regulatory compliance is in place. So, I mean, in my view, the legal work is not only needed, but key in order to make sure that the projects are impactful, successful, and that they bring true benefits to the company, the community, and the government. If everyone is on board and the accountability is shared, I think that's key for the project to be successful.
That's good news for impact lawyers. And just to finish this round with you, Pablo, you already answered this to some extent, but well, there's always the question that if a sustainability project can, give direct revenue to the company, or if it's profitable actually in the end. So, any final thoughts on that?
I think profitability is important, and I was just before this discussion. I was in the one where they talked about shareholder supremacy. And I think that we need to see the business in like a full glimpse. And there are different benefits that we can get. So profitability is one of them. But there's, again, this trade-off on nowadays it is equally important to make sure that we have environmental friendly projects, that we have sustainable commitments. And my view is that at this moment in life, they are at the same level and they should be.
Thank you. Well,
And at the end, they will bring shareholder benefit.
yeah, in the long run, right? Yeah, that's the idea. Okay, well, now we have the session, let's say, more into the specifics of the framework by Alan. I will give you this floor, Alan, so thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. If you can hear me now.
Get closer.
Closer. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
I just thought this thing was making noise. Do you know it, Mike? Sure. Sorry, you told me this. Sorry,
Perfect.
Oh, so thanks so much. I'm Alan Gomez, and I would like to talk to you a little about the Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosures, the TNFD. This is an initiative that was created in 2021 and that follow all the steps from TCFD. I guess that you are somehow familiar to the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD, that both of these initiatives are based on the best interest of investors to get to know what companies are doing around climate, in that case, and nature, in my case, in this case that I'm going to introduce, because they have the right to understand how companies are managing their risk or opportunities related to nature or to climate in that case. No? So I hope you are familiar to this diagram. This diagram basically is the same diagram that TCFD back in 2017 issued to state precisely how climate was related to financial operation and financial models within a company. This diagram highlights precisely the risks on the left side, but also highlights the opportunities on the right side. Okay, and all of that comes together in the center when you talk about the resilience of the company, but also about the business model of the company and how does these all ideas together are making a financial impact within the company. This financial impact can be positive or can be negative according to how you are managing precisely those topics. Behind this, the idea is that precisely nature and climate plus other social sustainability topics have precisely this influence within the business model. However, we haven't done the work until 2016, where we started. Globally speaking, as a society, we haven't done the work to understand whether those risks were really an impact or no within the business model of the company. You know, for some of us it was clear. For some of us it was not clear. Believe me, I've been working and talking to some CEOs from companies that work on water treatment, and they don't believe water is their business model. Yes, there is everything in this. How do you say that in English? I don't know. Well, in Spanish, in Mexico we say, yeah, it is God's land. There are everything. There is everything. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so basically this is the point. Now, again, remember that the part that I just explained was created for climate. When you talk about nature, nature is different because nature is local. Nature is something else. It's the part that complements climate, there is definitely a nexus with climate because there are, how do you say, benefits and I don't know, let's say retrofits. Sorry because I missed that word in English. But you can have, oh, come on. Okay, so this is the first slide. Okay, so my point is that nature, basically, our 100% of our economies depend on nature, 100%. This is not Alan telling you that, is the reality. Is the World Economic Forum that made an analysis and said that. Now, depending on the case of the company and the economies, this dependency can be higher. No? In the case of Latin America, I can say that it's 55%. But if you talk about countries that are mega biodiverse countries like Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Brazil, for example, that's something else. That is beyond 55 for sure. No? Oh, no, this. Sorry. Okay, so this is the framework. We have 14 recommendations. Remember this. These are recommendations. This is not a standard right now. Okay? We are in the pathway to become a standard, like it happened with TCFD, and that is now embraced by IFRS. I'm pretty sure you all know those letters. And right now, the only organization or initiative that is talking close to IFRS is TNFD, to be clear. Now, if you see the recommendations, basically 11 of the 14 recommendations we have here are basically like 90% the same thing that you see in climate. The only difference that you are going to notice here basically is that we are saying nature instead of climate. Obviously that has some implications beyond that, no? But, beyond the narrative, I mean. But the idea of doing that is to work on what it was already accepted by the market. TCFD was accepted, is accepted by the market. It's already being on the work plans of a lot of companies, is being actually regulated in Mexico, Brazil, and other latitudes. It's already regulated. And therefore it was a no-brainer for us to work on the same framework that was already accepted. That means 11 of the 14 recommendations are something where you can just add layers to the work that you are doing. It's not like doing something from scratch again, like it used to happen all the time, right? So we are working on in the process of simplifying this process, this framework, this amount of frameworks that exist around sustainability. But there are 3 recommendations that are different, and those are the ones that are highlighted in yellow. These ones are related to to society and to indigenous communities. The other one is related to the value chains, and that is because value chains sometimes are more relevant than the actual business of, for example, a financial institution. The financial institution is not working on nature directly, generally speaking, let's say. No, it's not like Dajero, no, or I don't know, or Natura. But definitely, these companies are on the value chain of those companies, of the financial sector. Therefore, value chains are really important. And regarding to the localization, precisely, and the relevance of what is happening around your asset is precisely to understand what is happening there, to measure that, and how you are interacting with the society. So these 3 differences are the main things, and I think are the core of the difference of the even from TNFD. This helps you to understand better how are your, and this is important, your dependencies, because this is not just about risks, opportunities, and impacts. It's about whether your company understands how much is relying on nature. That is a different conversation than the one we had with climate, because on that one we were talking about impacts, risks, and we were talking about opportunities. Here we added the dependencies. Therefore, a company, like I said, a water treatment company, for example, if you take out water from the equation, they don't have a business model, basically, right? If you do the same or something similar to a wine company, they don't have a business model, right? Okay, yeah, I'm coming. Okay, so on. Yes, I haven't get there. I will have to have a conversation with my friend here, but no pressure. No. We have conversations with ISO at the global level, just to be clear, and other ones. But I didn't told you this, but this framework was created by companies for companies, to be clear, and that means 40 companies around the world, including by the way Natura that was here, and other Latin American companies like Banorte from Mexico, Susano from Brazil. I already told you Natura and Ecopetrol for example, from Colombia, but also we have companies from India, Tata Steel, for example. No, and I'm highlighting this because on TCFD we didn't have representation from emerging markets on the creation of these frameworks. In this framework, the emerging markets were present and they participated on the creation of the recommendations and the test of their recommendations. This framework was released in 2023 and was tested by more than 200 companies. That means the framework is not new. It's not new. The framework is already tested. It's already ready to apply. Okay, and it's already being applied. I'm going to be there. But I told you that. What is the point of this one?
No, I think you use the slide.
Okay, don't worry. Yeah. Okay, so I told you that TNFD is already working with IFRS, and that is clear. But I also need to highlight that TNFD work actually with all the subletter that you see here, all these initiatives that are great initiatives, but that were fragmented. Basically, when you back then, before 2023, when we issued these recommendations, if you wanted to work with nature within your company, you had to work with all of this, and sometimes it was not connected. Yeah. Right? Now it's connected through TNFD. That is the good news. Therefore, we have all this representation. We already have 100 alignment, for example, with Europe CSRD. We have alignment with GRI. We are working on the alignment with CDP right now. And we are working, as I already told you, on the alignment to the ISSB IFRS standards. Okay? And that is, by the way, they are going to make a decision on how to embrace nature into the future standards or the future steps in 2 weeks from now. So just for you to take consideration. So what are the highlights from the market? What is happening around TNFD? So remember, TNFD was launched 2 years ago in 2023. Okay, so we are barely to reach 2 years of existence of the recommendations of TNFD. Okay, bear in mind that. Now let's talk about what we are seeing on the market. We see that we took about more than 500 reports available in English to analyze how was the reporting, where do the companies have some problems, issues, or so on. We found that there were 500, but we see more than 500. That means twice that number of companies working on a future TNFD report. That means for some reason they haven't told TNFD they are working. They haven't made this public, and maybe they are issuing the report in Spanish or in Portuguese or in other languages. But my point here is that the market likes the framework. Okay. Then that means we have right now companies that adopted the framework, that told actually specifically TNFD, I'm adopting TNFD framework and I'm going to issue a report in a couple of years. We have, until July this year, we had 620 companies. Now a couple of months later, we are about to get to 700. Okay, and that is 23 million assets under management, basically, from the market. And let me highlight this point, this number, 8.7. That is the amount of recommendations from the 14 recommendations that companies are already reporting. 8.7, okay? Remember I told you the framework had less than 2 years of existence, right? So if you took the same period of existence from TCFD, that means 2017 to 2019, during that time, companies reported in average 2 point something recommendations from the 11 recommendations. If you see TNFD, we have an average of reporting of 8.7. That is way more than we expected. And that indicates that the market is seeing an opportunity, a value on the framework, and they have, and this is the footprint on this, they have more information than they thought initially. When you do the first approach, and I can tell you that because that is my job, when I do this approach to companies, most of the companies say biodiversity is too complicated. And that is because they think the framework is only dedicated for biodiversity, and that is not the truth. Biodiversity is 20% of the metrics and the reporting information that you need. You need information about water. You need information about recycling. You need information about land use. You need information about air pollution. So, and this type of information is already on the core business of the companies because they do environmental impact, because they do internal controls for their operation, and because they comply with regulation. So that is the good news. The information is there, but before TNFD, nobody was asking about this information to supply the needs from the investors. So that was my last message. Beyond that, I invite you all to maybe join TNFD forum so you can be aware of everything that is happening around the framework. And well, yeah, if you are a company and you want to become an adopter, but you want to report, just to be clear, you are also welcome to become an adopter. Okay? Thank you so much, Carlos.
Thank you, Alan. That was interesting to see. I will defer to the organizers to see if we can have a question from the audience, or if we may.
Maybe just one, or something you guys want to. Perfect. I understand. Just make sure it's your lunchtime.
Okay, I then will ask if there's someone with a question, concern, or comment on what we just heard.
Come on, we
today.
gave time for you guys.
Yes,
Almost here.
Or maybe you are hungry and you want to grab something downstairs.
That's fine.
Okay, well.
Or anything you guys want to add, maybe, because I am very impressed by the TNFD disclosure.
I have a question, but maybe during the lunch.
Okay,
Yes, that's a good idea.
we have one over there. Maybe we can I can hand you over.
Yes.
Can either one of you say a little bit more, very quickly, about the role of regulators, how you interact with regulators, and their different requirements, whether this would be sufficient, if there is any integration with the idea that this would be the regulated reporting, or how that works in terms of a company having to meet certain local standards across jurisdictions versus using this more global approach to reporting.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah. So remember, we are working, TNFD is working really close to IFRS, okay? Just to be clear, in certain countries, IFRS is already mandatory. That is the case, for example, in Latin America for Mexico. That is the case for Chile. That is the case also for Brazil, by the way. In most of these cases, regulation says you need to comply. If you are a public listed entity, you need to comply with IFRS 1 and IFRS 2. And just to be clear, IFRS 1 already mandates nature. Okay, it's already there. So basically, it's already regulated. However, nobody has told you, how to do it. That is what you just saw, because we are helping IFRS under that process, and they are taking all the knowledge and all what the companies are issuing and reporting right now. They are taking all this knowledge and are making it, are turning this into the new complements to the standards. They can issue, yes, a new standard, but if you see what I just presented, basically, if you are already doing TCFD, you already have like 11 steps close, you are close. Therefore, what I see from IFRS is that they are not precisely maybe thinking into issuing one new standard. Maybe they are actually thinking into embedding everything that you saw into whatever is already in place. Therefore, yeah, basically in these countries, for example, that I told you, it's there. It's already there. Now, we don't engage directly with regulators, to be clear, because we don't want to be seen like the bad guy here. But that's work from a lot of others. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may add a note on that, I think that it will become very relevant to see the final omnibus package in Europe, to see how they strengthen obligations on due diligence, reporting, which is environmental and social scoping there. So that might be also interesting to see if that aligns with regulations and how strict in Mexico will that become, Mexico and the region, of course. But, well, thank you for that. Well, please join me in a round of applause for our speakers.